Today's video, we're going to be looking at the DC Collectibles DC Icons set 26. This is the Super Sons. Let's go ahead and grab a tape measure. If we look at the individual figures here, Jonathan Kent, Superboy, stands at about 5¼ inches in height. Meanwhile, Damian Wayne, Robin, stands closer to about 4¾ of an inch in height. Both the figures actually get a considerable amount of accessories. Let's start with the largest one. Superboy comes with the same flight base as what we got with the Supergirl, also from this wave of DC Icons. I really like these, and you can obviously mix and match these, swap these out with other flying characters. Currently I've got a Superman using this flight stand, and I really think and I hope that they would use these maybe for future releases as well. You can go ahead and take, I would automatically grab Superboy, but it's not to say that you can take Damian and kind of have him in a leaping sort of pose as well. Unfortunately, they only have, or in the case of Superboy, only has one peg hole on the undersides of his feet. I really don't know why companies, you're going to go through the effort of putting one peg hole. Why don't they just put a second peg hole there as well? Because again, it's dictating to you right away as a display, a person that's going to be displaying this, how exactly the figure has to be stand. Maybe I wanted to use the other foot. Unfortunately, I don't have the means to do so because the peg hole's only on the one foot. But you can see how automatically you get that sense of levitation coming from Superboy here. Again, I really like this, and I hope that they could make use of these stands for future released figures as well. He also gets a pair of, I say a pair, he gets a considerable amount of interchangeable hands as well, but let's not, maybe we'll look at the figure first, and then we'll look at all the different trinkets, all the cool things that he comes with as well. So here we have Superboy. Both characters actually debuted long before 2017 when they made their initial appearances. I think their initial release was way back in like 1973 in World's Finest, whereas the Super Sons essentially made their appearances. But these are the 2017 depictions of the characters, and here we have Superboy or Jonathan Kent. Face looks, starting with the face looks actually really good. Both the faces, as well as all the other DC Icons that have made up this particular wave, continue to impress me and makes me think, why are they necessarily stopping the line? Now, we have heard in the past that the line has been canceled, but again, we're still getting new figures, so I don't know if maybe they're just getting through the remaining molds that they had made, or if they've decided since to maybe pursue the line. Because I gotta admit, like, both with the paint and the sculpt on these figures' head sculpts, I really think there's mileage here for the DC Icons to continue to flourish and continue to drive forward. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but let me know down below. So for his face sculpt, I think actually it's really nice. I like the pitch blackness of his hair as well. I know that seems like such a strange thing to kind of start with talking about, but I like that it doesn't seem like it's a muted black. Like everything color-wise on this figure seems at its strongest potential. It doesn't seem like it's a faded skin tone. The eyes are very vibrantly done. The mouth, the hair, like it seems like there's a lot of, and dare I say this, depth. It may seem strange for me to use that sort of wording for it, but that's what I feel like the paints on these figures have, is depth. Face sculpt again on Superboy is really done nicely. For the rest of his outfit, he has kind of like a long sleeve sort of sweatshirt. It looks like it zips up, and then you got the little Superman emblem or Superboy emblem that is actually raised. It's not just simply painted over top of. Coloring is mirroring that of course, Superman. Just of course, making use of many more blues and more reds in the actual outfit. He's got the Superboy cape, which is a softer sort of pliable plastic. Then he looks like he's wearing a pair of jeans, a little ripped on the one knee, a little ripped by the top area of his thigh, and he's got a pair of sneakers. By the nature of these figures, because they are a little smaller proportionately, I find like Superboy's legs are a little on the loose side. That may not be across the board, that may only be specifically mine. They still have the thing where you can drop the legs further down, allowing an extra gap where you can bring the legs a little bit more outward. But it does make things a little bit more problematic because you have that extra gap. It does make a figure that normally would have been loose anyways, does make him a little bit more loose because those legs can drop further down. Posability on this guy. His head rotates all the way around. Hinges up and down as well, ball joint going on there. Universal joints on the arms. They hinge outward all the way around. You got a rotation on the cut of the bicep. A surprising double hinge on the elbow, even though this is such a small figure. And then you got a rotation and hinge on the hand. Upper torso ball joint. Lower torso crunch. Doesn't seem to have a waist swivel, but really a lot of that is being done anyways by the ball joint in the torso. I don't really think you necessarily need a swivel on the thigh. Like I said, the ball joint on the legs with the drop downs. Double hinge on the knee, and you got a hinge on the foot. Ankle pivots, yeah, you got your ankle pivots as well. So there is Jonathan Kent, Superboy. Standing these guys can be a little bit more difficult as well because they have such a very small footprint. There we go. Actually, that worked out perfectly. That's just before we get to Damian. We'll look at all his interchangeable hands. Currently, he's got a pair of closed fists, but he's also got a pair of obviously flat flying hands. He's got a couple of those. And he's also got a couple of just gripping hands. Now, coincidentally enough, he has gripping hands, but he really doesn't have anything to grip. He doesn't come with any other accessories other than the ones we've just looked at and the ones we're currently looking at. So, even though he's got gripping hands, he doesn't really have anything to really necessarily grab onto. Moving on to Damian here, Damian Wayne, or Robin. Again, a really nice sculpt. Really nice sculpt on this. Face is good. I love that he's got almost like a little smirk going in his face. And again, much like Superboy, I have to say that the paint really resonates for me. It just gives that sense of depth to these figures that otherwise sometimes figures seem to lack. The color palette between the reds, the yellows, you got the green of course in the gloves, and the boots are all done and handled very well. Face sculpt is also one of my personal favorites. They've even outlined the areas of the white eyes, so like those really stand out. Love the sculpt of the hair too, how it's kind of looks like it's been spiked back. Much like Superboy, he's got a soft kind of plastic cape. Looks like the indication of a hood that's been folded back. He's got the little Robin emblem there on his chest. Some nice detailing actually on the chest itself. Little indicators, little details there of the yellow as well. The utility belt and red laced green boots just kind of break everything up. He unfortunately does stand a little bit harder just because he's got a smaller footprint. It just doesn't seem like he really gets enough of it to get him to properly stand. Maybe for future releases for figures this small, maybe they could entertain the idea of giving us small stands. There's a little cleared small display stand so that this guy wouldn't have to topple over. It definitely would give extra mileage for how you can display these figures a little bit more dynamic without running the risk all the time of worrying that the figure's going to fall over because he just doesn't have proper footing. Gets his fair share of interchangeable hands. We'll put him right there for a second. Again, he is the harder of the two to stand. He's got some pretty clever looking hand sculpts. Currently I've got him with just a pair of closed fists, but he's got these two different variations, or two different hands obviously, with some little Robin Batarang things. I think it's not Batarangs, but I guess they would be Robin's equivalent. He's got 4 on one, 3 on the other, fanned in different formations. Then he's got just a kind of flat hand, very similar to a flight hand. And then he's got like a pair of, or a couple of different pairs of interchangeable gripping hands, which at least, unlike Superboy, you can go ahead and unpeg that, find the right hand that you want to use. And he also comes with his staff, which is as basic as it can come. It looks like it's just a rod of kind of gunmetal silver, but it serves what purpose it needs to. It fits very easily into his hand, and fits actually quite tight in his hand too, which is good. It's not going to flop around on me. For good mileage, let's go ahead and pop that out, and we'll replace it out with the shurikens or the batarang hands. And again, like, you can get some pretty cool looking poses out of specifically Robin because he's got all the extra stuff going on for him. Unfortunately though, he just doesn't have a proper display stand to get him to stand. I'm gonna have to see if I can find. I could probably use a mini-mate stand. I'm wondering if that's actually the same sort of peg. Make use of one of those, because I definitely would want to display this guy doing something a little bit above and beyond just simply standing. Articulation on Robin, let's go ahead and rotate his head, showing you that he does have a ball joint, hinges up and down. Universal joints on the arms. The cape does kind of flow over top of it, but it doesn't seem to restrict it as much as one would imagine. Got the swivel cut on the top of the bicep, you got your double hinge on the elbow there, and rotation going on in the hand. Pretty much all the same stuff on Superboy can also be found here on Robin. He's got the upper torso ball joint, lower torso crunch. Split on the legs, also a soft plastic used for the lower skirt so it doesn't hinder any sort of motion going on there. Double hinge on the knee, hinge on the foot, and you've got also your ankle pivot as well. Fans of ankle pivots, you're in luck. Both figures have them. I have to admit, I actually have no complaints with these figures. The figures turned out exactly how I would have wanted them to come out. Quality can be a little bit of an issue where I've got loose legs on Superboy, but I can't imagine that's across the board. That may very well just be mine. So all around, I think these are pretty perfect figures. Robin could have, yes, used display stands, and actually both figures could have used display stands. I like the flight stand that they include for Superboy, but just regular clear stands could have gone a long way as well, for especially if you want to be displaying these in a little bit more dynamic way than just having them standing straight up. This also, again, cements my feelings that DC Icons should continue to flourish and still continue to release figures under that banner. They continue to impress me with what they've done, specifically this wave. I love the Nightwing, I love the Supergirl, and I love the Super Sons. This is an all-around, across the board, a hit, I think, of the DC Icons that they've done. This is probably one of the better waves that they've released as well. And I almost wish that they were releasing figures like this that they did in the beginning, or at least I wish that they released those figures like what we're getting now, instead of some of the misses I have to admit that we did get with the initial couple of waves with the DC Icons. I think they're finally finding their footing. I just hope that they can continue to release figures for future waves. Today, though, we were having a look at the DC Collectibles DC Icons. This is set 26, and this was the Super Sons. The Super Sons, which, by the way, as well, if you guys are looking to find and pick these up for yourself, you can find them at your local comic book store. Sorry, what? You can't find a comic book store? That's okay. You can head over to www.comicshoplocator.com, put either your zip code or your postal code if you're Canada like myself, and you should be able to find a comic book store in your area. And no, I'm not I'm not sponsored by Comic Shop Locator. I just know I've used it and it's been pretty helpful. I'm sure it can probably be helpful for you guys as well. If you guys want to go back and check out some of my previously looked at DC Icons figure reviews, I've got a playlist on this channel that you can check out at your viewing pleasure. But if you haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so, as you'll never miss a beat when it comes to future videos coming onto this channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you next time.